Chapter 7. And the Lord said unto Noah,
Come thou and all thy house into the ark, for thee I have seen righteous before me in this generation. Of every clean beast thou shalt take to thee by sevens, the male and his female, and of beasts that are not clean by two, the male and his female, of fowls of the air by sevens, the male and the female, to keep seed alive upon the face of all the earth. For yet 7 days, and I will cause it to rain upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. And every living substance that I have made will I destroy from off the face of the earth.
And Noah did according unto all that the Lord commanded him. And Noah was 600 years old when the flood of waters was upon the earth. And Noah went in, and his sons, and his wife, and his sons' wives with him into the ark, because of the waters of the flood, of clean beasts, and of beasts that are not clean, and of fowls, and of everything that creepeth upon the earth. There went in two, and two unto Noah into the ark, the male and the female, as God had commanded Noah. And it came to pass after 7 days that the waters of the flood were upon the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were open, and the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. In the selfsame day entered Noah, and Shem, and Ham, and Japheth, the sons of Noah, and Noah's wife, and the 3 wives of his sons with them, into the ark, they and every beast after his kind, and all the cattle after their kind, and every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth after his kind, and every fowl after his kind, every bird of every sort. And they went in unto Noah into the ark, 2 and 2 of all flesh, wherein is the breath of life. And they that went in male and female, of all flesh, as God has commanded him. And the Lord shut him in. And the flood was 40 days upon the earth, and the waters increased, and bare up the ark, and it was lift up above the earth. And the waters prevailed, and were increased greatly upon the earth. And the ark went upon the face of the waters, and the waters prevailed exceedingly upon the earth, and all the high hills that were under the whole heaven were covered. 15 cubits upward did the waters prevail, and the mountains were covered. And all flesh died that move upon the earth, both of fowl, and of cattle, and of beast, and of every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth, and every man, all in whose nostrils was the breath of life, of all that was in the dry land died. And every living substance was destroyed, which was upon the face of the ground, both man and cattle, and the creeping things, and the fowls of the heaven, and they were destroyed from the earth. And Noah only remained alive, and they that were with him in the ark. And the waters prevailed upon the earth 150 days. Chapter Review. As we begin to read the Noah's Ark flood story, we begin to notice the Bible starts to repeat itself. The most obvious repeat is the instructions given to Noah. First, God tells him to bring on board 2 of every living thing. And then the Lord tells him to bring 7 pairs of clean beasts, 1 pair of not clean beasts, and 7 pairs of birds. In Hebrew, the word for God or gods is Elohim, and the word for the Lord is Yahweh. So Elohim gives 1 set of instructions, and Yahweh gives different instructions. Also, the amount of time for the flood is different. It was 40 days in verse 17 and 150 days in verse 24. And all living things on land died twice in verse 21 through 23. What are we to make of this? It seems that there are 2 Noah's Ark stories interwoven together. Is this possible? Yes. When we look at verse 2, it uses terminology that will not exist for hundreds of years. That is, clean and not clean. According to what we have read so far from Genesis chapters 1 through 7, we are unable to define what is clean and what is not clean. This means that the Bible was changed or updated over time. From what I can see, it was to fix an obvious problem caused by Elohim's instructions to bring on 2 of every living thing onto the ark. At the end of the flood story, Noah is going to make an animal sacrifice. Since there are only 2 of each animal, this will result in an animal extinction. After hundreds of years have passed, we finally get the definition of what is clean and what is not clean. And the people from that time period fixed the Noah's Ark story, or stories, because there do seem to be 2 of them woven together. When we check the archaeological record, we will find many flood stories that predate the Bible, like Emilu Elish, the Epic of Atrahasis. But the Noah's Ark flood story is more closely related to the Epic of Gilgamesh. Flood stories have the same basic structure. The flood will be the result of a divine decision. One person will be saved. They will be given instructions to build an ark. They will be told to bring people and animals on board. Birds will be sent out to sea if the waters have receded. The ark will come to rest on a mountaintop. The hero will build an altar. The hero makes animal sacrifices, and the hero will be blessed at the end of the story. The Noah's Ark flood story is an adaptation of these earlier flood stories molded into monotheism. The second creation story also finds its roots in the Epic of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh was a real person in history. He was a Mesopotamian king. Gilgamesh is paired up with Enkidu. Enkidu is very much like Adam from the second creation story. He's a simple man that lives in nature. He wears no clothes. The animals are his friends or helpmates. A sexual encounter with a woman makes him wise like a god. This act causes him to lose his connection with nature and the animals. Enkidu then puts on clothes, leaves nature, and goes into the city and becomes friends with Gilgamesh. After Enkidu dies, Gilgamesh goes on a search for eternal life, and along the way he finds Utnapishtim, the hero of the Gilgamesh flood story. Utnapishtim tells Gilgamesh that the gods granted him and his wife eternal life, and that only God can grant eternal life. But there is a plant of eternal youth. So Gilgamesh goes after the plant of eternal youth, but a snake or a serpent steals it from Gilgamesh. This explains why snakes shed their skins and appear to be forever young. The first creation story, however, is closely related to Emilu Elish. Emilu Elish starts with procreation between freshwater and saltwater entities. Monsters are created, demons, gods, lesser gods, and humans. A battle between the gods will lead to the story that is very similar to the first creation story in Genesis. The firmament will be made from the body of the god that gets defeated, and human beings will be made to do the work that gods don't want to do. The sea monsters and leviathans from the story of Emilu Elish will be used in other parts of the Bible. Once again, this is an illustration of how monotheism and polytheism have made their way into the Bible and fused together, making it very difficult to tell them apart.